And I remember the vehicle pulls up, and I remember the ex yelled to my daughter, hey, honey, food's here. And I remember them approaching the vehicle, both of them as if it was normal. And I'm sitting on the thing. I'm not blaming them at all for going to get some food, but I'm just imagining, my God, a regular family is at a picnic or they're at the carnival and they're like, hey, honey, let's get some cotton candy. And they go home to their family. My family's going to get, condoms, needles, and a sandwich, and it's normal. And that was devastating.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode on Coffee with Kuda. I'm excited to introduce you today to my guest. His name is Curtis. How are you today?
Doing well, thank you.
What makes your story very unique in its own is that you started using heroin for the first time in 46 to 47 years old.
That's right, yeah.
Roughly. And that's hard to comprehend.
Yes, yeah.
I know you had your first overdose 49?
Yeah, I believe I was 49 when I had my first overdose, yeah.
From 49 to 51 years old, you had 36 overdoses.
Yeah,
Like,
36 overdoses, and 24 of them were in the last, I think, just 10 months.
Curtis, if you can tell everyone where you were born and raised.
I was born in Terrace, BC, back in 1966. My family was, my mother and father got divorced when I was 5, and my mom took me to Victoria with my younger brother, and I was raised in Victoria.
You completed high school?
Yes, I did, yeah.
You finished high school?
Yeah.
What kind of work do you get into?
Almost immediately, I had a couple small jobs, but almost immediately I got into construction. That was about 1984 when I graduated. 85, the economy was really booming, and I started working in the trades, mostly roofing and siding, some framing, stuff like that. But it was very busy, lots of work, and I was making decent money quite a bit when I was a kid.
And I understand that you did so well that you ended up going to Las Vegas.
There was a point in Victoria that the economy had gone bad. I think it was around 1996. There wasn't a lot of construction at that time. I had my own small roofing company, but I wasn't able to sustain myself or the employees at that point. Mm-hmm. So I decided to take a trip down to Las Vegas, really just for fun, to have 2 months off and see if I could find some side work. While I was there, I did find some side work. I enjoyed it. I was there for about 2 months. I came back to Victoria, and that's when I realized I wanted to sell my house and actually move there, give it a go.
Okay.
So I sold my house, and it took me a while to sell the house with a bad economy, but I ended up returning to Las Vegas right after 9/11. It was in January, so it was 2002. I moved to Las Vegas to find more work in construction.
Did you have a kid here or no?
When I was 26 years old, I met a girl and we had a child. Unfortunately, we were young and we didn't really think a lot. We weren't even in a relationship. So neither of us wanted to be parents at that time. She decided that she wanted the child, and so did I. Both of us didn't believe in the other options. So she had the child, but her and I didn't get along.
Okay.
So I was aware that I had a daughter, but the last time I had seen her, she was 3 years old, and I wasn't really communicating with the mother at that time. So I left for Las Vegas knowing that I had a daughter with somebody, yeah.
So you're in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
The land of the free.
Yes, Sin City.
What happens? How's life in Las Vegas? Are you working? Are you making enough money? What's going on?
Initially, I started right into construction, which is what I knew. So I would get into roofing and siding. Mm-hmm. There was another little industry going on in Las Vegas at the time, which was going on a lot in the southern United States. It was called construction defect litigation. So I was hired on as an expert in the building envelope installation. So I would basically be the guy in charge of looking at all the roofing and siding for the consulting firm.
Right. I know you told me you first got in touch. You first used hard substances in Las Vegas, but it wasn't really addiction. It was just more like using for the party, but then you don't really follow up on anything afterwards, right?
Right. And I think we touched on this before. Back when I was 26 years old, living in Victoria, I had my first panic attack. So I just wanted to bring this in as to why I started using substances in the first place.
Okay, correct, yeah.
So I drove myself to the hospital on 5 different occasions, believing I'm having a heart attack. I'm going to die. My chest was exploding. I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
Each time the doctor sort of deflected me. They probably knew, but they wanted me to go to my own GP and follow through from there. I went to my GP. He sent me to a psychiatrist. I was diagnosed with like a panic anxiety disorder, or general anxiety disorder with panic. It was so bad, though, that I was literally hospitalizing myself with this panic, that they decided, the psychiatrist decided that I should take some medication for it, that it was genetic in my family more than likely, since my mother had it, my brother had it, that's what caused his alcoholism, and my grandfather also drank heavily because he had the same anxiety and couldn't get out of bed. So I'm getting medicated now on, I believe it's Zoloft, and they prescribed me a benzo, which was clonazepam at the time. I never abused the benzos ever. I always took them as prescribed. But I found that nothing was manageable for me. I couldn't go to a party, or I couldn't go to a concert, or I couldn't hang out with friends without feeling like I needed to medicate just a little bit.
Okay.
So if my friends were using cocaine, if my friends were drinking, whatever that was, it was something I was going to do just so I could feel okay to hang out in the crowd.
Right.
When eventually, as I battled through this in life, I was always able to sort of work and hold down a job, but it really became bad in Las Vegas, because this is a big city. The casinos are huge. I'm flying a lot now in my job consulting. I'm going to other states on the weekend, so the airports become very overwhelming for me, to the point where I just want to just run, but I can't because my job, right? In retrospect, I should have been pursuing a little bit more doctors and psychiatrists to try to change my medication, or some kind of counseling might have helped me with the anxiety, but I was deciding that, okay, if I was going to use cocaine one weekend, or it was going to...
Yeah.
So yeah, I was using occasionally, but almost always socially.
Right. Yeah, so like you couldn't, even to this day, you couldn't identify that person as an addict to cocaine.
No,
exactly. So at what point, now that you're still in Las Vegas, you're living life, at what point does addiction hit, or does addiction hit at all when you're in Vegas?
Yeah, looking back at it now, yes, of course it hit them, but I didn't see it at the time. I was with a friend of mine, and we were on our way to work that day, and we got into a small car accident in an intersection in Las Vegas.
Okay.
He immediately called his insurance company, and they told him to go to an attorney right away. He went to an attorney. He brought me with him as sort of a witness. Now, he had a little bit of a neck injury. I didn't have much myself, but I was following my friend and going to the insurance company, going to the lawyers. So we got to the lawyer's office. He wanted to talk to me, and I told him my story on the side of the car, and he said, "You know what, Curtis, you should at least see our doctor." So I thought, it makes sense, reasonable. I went to the doctor. The doctor said to me, "Well, Curtis, you have a claim here, but you need to be in pain, and so in order for you to look like you're in pain, I need to prescribe you a pain med." And I'm just sort of like, whatever, guys, I'm going to go through this. I get a couple $1,000. This will be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm basically following my friend at this point. So I get prescribed this Percocet is what it was prescribed at the time. And it was, I believe, a very small dose. And I've never had an opiate in my life now. So I'm in my late 30s now, and I take this one little pill thinking it's going to act like an aspirin.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I get this really warm feeling over my body that I just feel hugged. Like I feel like my anxiety is gone, my depression has left me, the world is a great place. And I'm like, this is unimaginable. I've never felt like this in my life. And I actually feel normal. Like, I mean, I can enjoy and be happy without using a substance to get happy, without stressing my way through something. So I decided, of course, I'm going to take one of these every day. And every day I became more functional at work. I could work longer hours. I didn't need to medicate to go to the bar with my friends. And in fact, I thought it was the opposite of addiction. I thought I no longer need cocaine or alcohol to go to the bar with my friends.
Right.
I'll take one Percocet and I can hang out and be friendly and tell everybody I quit drinking drugs, right? So to me, it was opposite. And I've been taking pills all my life, well, since I was 26, to deal with anxiety.
Correct.
So I thought, what's one pill for the other?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so you're introduced now to opiates for the first time.
Yeah.
And you were first introduced at what age?
36.
36 years
Yeah.
old, right?
Yeah.
And then you leave Vegas when you were how old?
Shoot. The question, I left Vegas in 2009, 10, right in there.
So 10 years ago-ish.
Yeah, 10 years ago. So I would have been 44.
Well, 44.
Yeah. But it was about 4 years of Percocet. But what happened with the doctor was that he would only prescribe me that Percocet for a few months because it was pain management.
Right.
So right away, I got my first experience of withdrawal, which I didn't know much about opiates, and I heard about them, but I thought I was just taking one a day or two a day, no big deal. So I looked around. I knew people to buy cocaine or meth or other stuff. I knew people in that community because I'd purchased cocaine before, and I said, "Do you know where to buy any pills?" And I was given Vicodin. That was what they were selling in the States, which is another form of opiate. But now they were 10 milligram tablets, so a lot stronger than ones I was given from the doctor. But now I could continue on this life of not using because I have this pill from my friend. And the problem with that was my addiction became more and more to this opiate that I was taking as many as 20 Vicodins a day. And sometimes I would usually have about 8 of them by lunchtime. So I'm at work now in the consulting firm and I'm putting in information into the Excel sheet and I'm starting to nod off. So I call up the drug dealer again and I say, you know what, these pills are working great, but I'm starting to nod off. And he says, well, maybe you need a little bit of meth. Pick that up. And so now I'm balancing methamphetamine and opiates pretty much for the whole last 4 or 5 years that I was in Las Vegas. So I ride back in Victoria and I'm heavily addicted to opiates and methamphetamine at this point. Yeah.
When you are on meth and opiates for the last 4 years, do they negatively impact your work?
The amount I was using, I thought it was the amount that was allowing me to not nod off. Therefore, it was positively affecting my work. In retrospect, of course, I mean you're going to be too tired, not getting enough sleep, not eating well. I was starting to lose weight. My work probably was definitely dropping in the amount that I was getting done, but I thought I was doing better.
Okay. So you arrive back in Canada.
Yeah.
Victoria.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you stopped using, you're going through withdrawals.
Yeah, that's correct.
And crystal meth is another substance of choice as well.
At that point, I could use crystal meth to get me through, but it wouldn't help with the opiate withdrawal.
Of course, exactly. Yeah. What happens with opiates with your addiction now? In what direction do you take? Because your mother of your daughter is there, your daughter is there. I assuming you're maybe trying to build a relationship with your daughter, right? So, what happens when you see your family?
Well, I ride back in Victoria. I was there for about 6 months, and I was finding a little bit of pills here and there. By that time, I believe they were Oxycontins here, oxycodones or something they were called here. And I was sort of getting by with those, although I was having withdrawals in between. But 6 months went by, and I really was curious about my daughter. I thought maybe, look, I'm back in Victoria now. I should really try to reconnect with her. So I made a phone call to her mother, and her mother said she would meet me, and we met each other. And I see my daughter now, and she's 16 years old, and I hadn't seen her since she was 3. So this was really awesome. Unfortunately, and which we shouldn't have done because the mother and myself have never really been on the same footing. We're not the same people, but haven't seen each other for a long time, and both being parents of the same child, we thought we'd give this another chance. We would try to reconnect. We're older now, more mature, we thought, and maybe we'll give it a go, and I could actually be there for my daughter and her as well.
So you guys tried to give this a try again?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming she was single as well then, okay. How does it work out?
Yeah, how does it work out?
So before you actually answer, is your wife using any substances from your knowledge?
Yeah, as far as I know, the mother of my child, she was always using some kind of substance in her life, but she had stretches that were just marijuana, alcohol, but she has always been a dabbler in drugs since I have known her, although I didn't know her the whole time I was in Vegas, so I can't speak to that, but that was my assumption. So when I met her again and we started hanging out, we went back and started using a little bit of cocaine together
Together, right?
and started drinking. And I had mentioned to her that I was finding these oxy tablets. And she had told me that back in the early days of her life, when she was 18, 19, she had experienced opiates. So she and I joined in and started using together. So the two of us are now using pills together in Victoria. We're living together in an apartment. And the pills, we're both getting heavily addicted at this point. I'm getting worried that my daughter is starting to notice, but of course the addiction is more powerful than caring about what my daughter thinks, unfortunately. And I don't want to use her name, so
That's fine.
words.
Yeah.
So the mother and myself decided that we would both look for heroin because she knew a dealer, and I could get heroin for a lot cheaper than these pills. And we started using heroin together.
Wow. So, what you thought would be a family reunion and maybe try to work this out,
Yeah.
it kind of goes south.
Yeah.
And this is the first year of your return to Canada, this time period?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
First year.
So it's 2010, 11, yeah.
Okay, so tell us, how's your daughter doing?
At that time?
Yeah.
So she was 16, like I said, when I got back. She was already getting into a little bit of trouble, but it was mostly with drinking and marijuana. I heard about a little bit of cocaine, but nothing out of hand. We were a little bit worried about her, both of us, but we were also heavily into our addiction and not paying attention. We started, like I said, using heroin more and more together. And at some point, the two of us decided that we were going to actually inject. We were going to start using needles instead of smoking or snorting the heroin. And really that came to us because of financial need. You know, it was hard to pay the bills at home with the amount of heroin that the two of us were doing. So we decided we could use a lot less heroin, and we were going to start injecting each other with heroin. Unfortunately, during the process of us doing that, thinking we're sneaky, our daughter, we assume, is finding out. And because of that, I find out through my ex that she tells me one day that our daughter is now doing heroin as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so that, although that was devastating, again, the addiction is more powerful than common sense, and common sense would be that we should shut this down right now and help our daughter, but no, the heroin took over. And,
the whole family.
Yeah, the whole family, yeah.
And your daughter lives with you at this point?
Yeah. Yeah, the three of us are together.
Wow. Was your partner working?
She was working. She had lost one of her jobs because of acting strangely at work because in her addiction. I had lost one of mine, so we were bopping in between jobs because we couldn't really hold down a job.
And what's the line of work your partner is doing?
At this point now, she's waitressing.
Waitressing, okay. Okay, so your daughter is now caught up in this. She drops out of school, 16 years old, maybe going to 17. Do you all three at any point seek help at this point?
No, I think the daughter is basically denying that, although we do know through our friends and actually through our same drug dealers that she is. We, of course, thinking we're hiding it from her, and we continue. So at this point, I'm in complete denial, right? I'm in denial. I'm thinking that, this has to be stopped, but not today, tomorrow. We'll just use one more day. We'll stop tomorrow. And at least it was sort of pre-contemplative, but it was no action being taken, What happened in the process is I had my truck towed while I was going to work one day. And it was a 2004 Dodge Ram that I paid cash for in Las Vegas, brand new. So it was an investment while I was making good money. I got pulled over and I still had my Nevada plates on. And the reason they took it was because of that reason. And I would have had to license it in Canada. And I didn't have a nickel to my name, and I was buying drugs every day. So I literally let the impound keep my truck because I couldn't think of a way to put up a few $100s to get it back out. So I left my brand new truck there. At that point, my partner, she got fired from her job. I think she got caught using as a waitress there. The employer that I had at the roofing company didn't want me around anymore because I was no longer showing up on time or if ever at all. So both of us had nothing. We had this apartment and no bills. Bills with no income. So I still had my Harley Davidson that I had bought in Vegas while I was doing well as well. And I took that into the Harley dealership and sold it for a minimal amount of money so we could again continue using, even though I thought that, in my brain that we'll just do a little bit of dope with this money and we'll quit in a little bit.
You said something that I don't know why I'm finding this so important to ask, but you said you and your daughter had the same dealer.
Yeah.
I mean, does he try to give you advice like you should tell your daughter to not use? I'm just wondering.
He did try to hint at me a couple times that she might be coming by,
Right.
and I did say, don't sell to her like the good parent that I am, and and of course he being a dealer and probably using himself is going to sell to whoever he can to make his money too. So yeah, there's some pretty shaky parenting skills going on at that time. For sure.
Okay, so yeah, like I said, I just found that so interesting, right? But okay, so you sell your Harley.
Yeah, sell the truck. We'll lose both of our
gone.
jobs.
Wow.
And now we're getting evicted because we can't pay the rent. It was at that time that the mother of our child and myself had a conversation, and she brought up to me that back when she was 18 years old and I didn't know her, that she had prostituted herself, and that this wouldn't be a problem if she was to maybe do it again, and we could get a little money. And of course, we won't do it for drugs; we'll do it so we can get an apartment and get clean.
Do you agree or do you disagree?
Yeah, I agree. Of course, everything seems to make sense at that point, even though in the back of your mind, a little piece of your mind is telling you, this isn't going to work out, Curtis. Mm-hmm. This is going to end up with drugs. But you try to convince yourself, no. If this is the only reason we're doing it, then this is a good reason. And we can always lie to ourselves and go, well, because if we get an apartment and if we get clean, then we can get our daughter clean and we're good parents. Do you know what I mean? Like everything seems to be justify itself, even though really it's just going to go to dope.
Are you panhandling as well or no?
No, I'm not panhandling. Good point. At that point, when I had lost my last job, I knew a couple guys that were in construction, and they would hire me occasionally as day labor. So I might be able to show up one day a week and add a little bit of money to our fund.
Okay, good to know. So now your girlfriend is prostituting. She's bringing some money. Mm-hmm. Is it money or is it heroin that she's bringing now? Or is she bringing heroin money anyway, and then you're both spending it on heroin?
Both. Sometimes, she would call me and say, "Oh, I made some money. I'm just going to stop and pick up some heroin on the way home," or whatever. So she'd either come home with heroin or come home with money. Either way, when we got the money, we would both go get some heroin.
And when you say home, where's home?
Well, we still have that apartment, and so that's when the prostitution part just started. By 2015 October, we had an eviction, so we were kicked onto the street.
Okay, 2015.
So where she was able to do some of the sex work out of the house or other friends' houses, now we were homeless, and that's no longer the case.
Okay.
Both of us at that point ended up going down to a shelter in Victoria, and now we're both living in a shelter. Our daughter is able to stay at her grandma's occasionally, although it's a senior-only building. So for the most part, now there's me, the mother of my child, and my daughter all in the same shelter in Victoria, and all addicted to heroin. And at that point, there was a stroll sort of up on the end of the street where the sex trade workers would work. And now the mother of my child is working up on the corner right by the shelter where we're at.
How does your daughter feel about that?
At this point, I don't know if we had much of a relationship left anymore. Of course, we're talking to each other, and it's so strange in a shelter as a family. The women sleep on one floor, and the men are on a different floor. Somebody could be on a mat. So the daughter is acting like it's no trouble at all. But the interesting part is that there was one night we were working. I was working holding the bags, basically the suitcases of our clothes, because in the shelter they might get stolen. And I was sitting on the cardboard. We had a dog at the time as well, a family dog. So I got a hold of my dog, and I got a hold of the suitcases, and I'm sitting on cardboard. And the mother of my kid is up on the end of the street, and she's prostituting. And we see our daughter coming up the street, and that was the first time that we realized that now she's following in her mother's path as well. Now, we didn't actually know about it, but again, just like we didn't know about the heroin, she was literally just following in our path exactly.
Oh my gosh.
For me, it was absolutely devastating. And yet the shame, you know what I mean? The guilt that I would look down the street, hanging on to everything that our family once had together in a place. And now they're both standing up on the corner together, turning tricks basically.
And then you told me about almost like a visualization of a family picnic.
Oh, yeah. There was, we were all, I think all of us are pretty hungry because there was like one meal at the shelter at the time. And I believe I was going into some of the dollar stores and stealing chocolate bars for myself to eat. So I was about 140 pounds at the time, and I was eating my stolen chocolate bar. And I remember the girls were up on the street, and one of the trucks drove by, which is one of those women's sort of a lookout. Well, not the Lookout Society, it's Victoria, it's different, but it was a society that looked after women that were on the street working, sex workers. They would bring them by condoms, needles, food, warm clothes,
Yeah.
and sandwiches, stuff like that. And I remember the vehicle pulls up, and I remember the ex yelled to my daughter, hey, honey, food's here. And I remember them approaching the vehicle, both of them as if it was normal. And I'm sitting on the thing. I'm not blaming them at all for going to get some food. But I'm just imagining, my God, a regular family is at a picnic or they're at the carnival and they're like, hey, honey, let's get some cotton candy. And they go home to their family. My family's going to get, condoms, needles, and a sandwich. And it's normal. And that was devastating.
I think you told me that you prayed that time.
Yeah, I did. As they were at the van, I was sitting back in the car and I prayed. I just prayed to God. I said, God, I don't know how I could do this. I apologized to him. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, God. I didn't mean to do this. Is there anything you could do to help me? And yet I felt so trapped. Like I didn't have any answers. It was like so demoralizing to realize I was in that spot, and it all seemed to happen so fast. And yet, if you look back at it, on each step of the way, there could have been decisions made so many times. But through the addiction, it just seemed like it happened overnight, and I was dumbfounded. And I was just praying to the Lord, like, God, please help us all get out of this.
You asked for forgiveness because you felt so responsible for it.
Yeah, I really did. I mean, as the man in the family, I don't know who wouldn't feel responsible for it all. I mean, addiction's addiction. It can attack anybody, but as the so-called head of the family, it was too much to take.
That's a lot to take.
It's a lot to
It is,
take.
absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
it bothers me right now. Yeah.
There's a lot more to your story. A lot more. Because, like I said, you do overdose 24 times in 10 months, roughly. 32,
36
36 overall that you know of. We spoke about your the last overdose experience, which was, oh my word, mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. I think, for the sake of time, we'll end this here.
Okay.
And then we'll do a part 2 to discuss the journey. I want to say journey to recovery, but before recovery, it kind of gets worse, right?
It gets worse.
It's
before it
like
gets better,
it doesn't get worse, but what can get worse than this? But it does get worse. Before we do close, tell me, up to this exact point right now, are you ever suicidal?
Yeah, I think that was the first time I started really thinking about it, because as I prayed that day, waiting for an answer, I was giving myself the answer, going, you know what, maybe if I wasn't here, they'd be better off. Really, if I hadn't come back from Las Vegas, if I hadn't introduced an opiate to this house, if I hadn't, if I went away now, they'd have a chance. And I think that was the first time I really started considering killing myself and not really knowing which way to do it. And hoping actually it was going to end at the end of a needle as opposed to something else.
Maybe I also wanted to ask, only just because it's appropriate to ask in an addiction situation, do you ever experience psychosis?
Today or then?
No, then.
Then there was a few times when I was trying to make some odd money, I would try selling some crystal meth, and like I told you before, I would use it sometimes to keep myself awake while using opiates. At this point, I am a true addict now, and I'm not able to sell this without using it every day. I didn't need that much to keep me awake because it wasn't something I used every day, and so at one point I ended up keeping myself awake for about 6 days in a row on methamphetamine. That was in Victoria, and I was starting to have psychosis with seeing shadow people coming out of the trees, or you'd see a shadow in the corner, and well, was there a cat there or a dog or things that are moving, you know. It was quite scary. You know, in the day 2 or 3, you could see a shadow and go, oh, this is just a shadow. I haven't had enough sleep. But by day 6, they were starting to become like real people coming out of the bushes, and yeah, so there was psychosis. That was very scary.
Wow. Okay. We'll come back to this. We will finish off this conversation. It's kind of like one of those ones where there needs to be like part 4, part 5. Why I say that is because not only is addiction so heavy, but then your journey to recovery, it's amazing because you went to work back in the same place that saved your life 24 times.
That's right, yeah.
Right? Because I got to contemplate and think, what's on your mind when you go back to this place? You can almost visualize, like, I dropped 24 times on that spot, but you went back to work and save other lives as well. Like, the amount of strength it takes, man.
It sounds like strength when you just look at it that way, but for me going back, it was just to, like I think I told you before, it was just to thank the people that have kept me alive so many times, that they gave me an opportunity to still be here today. And when I got an opportunity to work there, I saw it as not strength, but actually they were giving me strength. Not only the staff there was giving me strength, saying, you could do this, Curtis, you know what I mean? We always knew you could. But also to see the people on the other side where I was sitting before that are using today. And they give me strength to know that that's exactly where I was, you know, and that I was the one lying on the floor over here. I was the one getting oxygen. And today I'm on this side. So that place gives me strength today. It's kind of the other way around.
You know, you say that, I'm sort of mumbling. We're supposed to be finished in 1 second. But do you know, like in my culture in Zimbabwe, there's a saying that says, kusa tenda uroi. What that means is not saying thank you is almost being evil. Right? So I'll keep calling it strength, right? But your ability to say thank you, man, I find that so powerful. Like, you're choosing to be the opposite of evil. What's the opposite of evil? Do you know, it's about as close to God as you can get, right?
Yeah.
It's like, Curtis, it's amazing. It's truly eye-opening. I'm grateful for you to be here.
Yes.
I will see you in the next episode.
All right.
Curtis, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good seeing you, man. Hey everyone, thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. I do really appreciate it. If you can, please subscribe to our channel for more content. If you can, please join our Patreon team. The link is down below. And also, you can join our GoFundMe. The link is also involved below. This will help us to bring awareness of addiction as well as destigmatize this illness. Your support is greatly appreciated, and we'll create more content for you. Thank you so much.